American Pickers Mike Wolfe reveals Frank's drug addiction. After the death of American Pickers Frank Fritz this past September, his co-host and series creator, Mike Wolfe, has opened up about losing him. During a conversation, Wolfe shared details of Fritz's struggle with addiction. Wolfe also revealed how he tried to help him, as well as sharing a few words in his memory. Frank Fritz stopped appearing on American Pickers in 2020. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz served as co-hosts on American Pickers when it first began in 2010. The series, which aired on the History Channel, saw Wolfe and Fritz venture throughout America in search of artifacts they can buy from collectors. Fritz had made his last appearance on American Pickers in March 2020. He was officially fired from the show the following year. In a recent conversation with People, Wolfe talked about Fritz's firing from the show. He also described how his former co-host struggled with addiction. As Wolfe explained, Fritz had undergone surgery after hurting his back moving things around his home. As Wolfe noted, the timing made things especially dangerous. Wolfe noted that, with that time off and him having surgery, it was like the perfect storm. He became addicted to opioids, and that's when everything changed. While discussing what happened, Wolfe made it a point to note that he felt he didn't have the right to tell Fritz's story, saying that rightfully belonged to Fritz. However, he noted, "But I do have, I feel, the right to tell the personal story of how myself and so many people struggled to navigate what was going on in his life." Wolfe also revealed that he tried to stage an intervention on Fritz's behalf. As he shared, "I remember running into him like a month later. He said he was just going to handle everything on his own, and I asked him how he was doing. He said, 'I'm fine, I'm fine. No, I'm really fine.' And then like a month later, he was gone." Wolfe knew when he knew things couldn't go back. Saying he never ever gave up on Fritz, Wolfe said he also tried to help Fritz enter rehab. Ultimately, he noted, "And so watching Frank doing some of the things that he was doing, it was really hard." The issues also impacted the show, with production calling for negative drug tests. Wolfe noted it was the network that made the final decision on what the show would do. "They're just like, listen, we have to move on. We have to keep going with this." I had mixed emotions about doing that, and we were just trying to figure out what we were going to do. Wolfe then compared losing Fritz to losing a brother. Fritz leaving the show wasn't easy for him. As Wolfe shared, "I was just kind of left to fend for myself in a lot of ways. I could finish his sentences. He could finish my sentences." Wolfe also noted there was talk of having Fritz eventually rejoin the show. However, in 2022, he realized it wasn't ever going to happen after he suffered a stroke in 2022. Ultimately, Wolfe ended the conversation with some words describing his former co-host. As he shared, "He was a beautiful, beautiful person that, to be honest with you, who knows what our lives would have been like if there was never a show," says Wolfe. "I just want people to know who he was." For over a decade, American Pickers has captivated audiences with its unique blend of history, nostalgia, and the thrill of the hunt. The series, which follows Mike Wolfe and his longtime friend Frank Fritz as they travel the country searching for rare antiques, forgotten treasures, and hidden gems, became a cultural staple. As the show progressed, fans grew attached not only to the items the duo discovered, but to their undeniable camaraderie. Their friendship, built over years of collecting, hunting, and sharing stories, seemed unshakable. However, the reality behind the scenes was far from what it appeared on camera. In a shocking revelation that sent ripples through the American Pickers fan base, Mike Wolfe opened up about Frank Fritz's struggles with drug addiction, shedding light on the difficult battles that had long been kept private. The announcement came after Frank's absence from the show during its later seasons. While fans speculated about the reasons for his departure, Mike had remained tight-lipped, respecting his friend's privacy. However, as the years passed and Frank's struggles became harder to ignore, Mike finally decided to speak out, offering both a heartfelt tribute to his friend and a candid look at the emotional toll addiction had taken on their relationship. A lifelong friendship tested by addiction. Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz's bond was forged long before American Pickers made them household names. The two shared a passion for collecting, and their paths had crossed countless times in flea markets, garage sales, and auctions before they ever filmed a single episode of the show. Frank's larger-than-life personality and sharp eye for valuable items perfectly complemented Mike's more subdued, yet equally passionate, nature. Together, they made an unbeatable team, scouring the backroads of America in search of treasures that spanned centuries. However, behind Frank's exuberant on-screen presence, there was a darker side that viewers didn't see. Mike explained that, over the years, Frank had been grappling with addiction. It wasn't just a casual struggle, it was a deep, persistent issue that affected every aspect of his life. Mike recalled the moments when he realized that something wasn't right with his friend. The once vibrant and energetic Frank had become withdrawn and distracted, and Mike soon understood that the addiction was taking its toll on Frank, both physically and mentally. Frank had a problem, Mike revealed in an emotional interview, his voice trembling with emotion. And it wasn't just something that came out of nowhere. It's something that was there for a long time. I didn't want to admit it to myself, but it was clear that Frank was struggling. For years, Mike stood by Frank's side, offering support and trying to help him through his darkest times. However, addiction is a complex and insidious disease, and Mike soon realized that he couldn't fix it on his own. As the seasons of American Pickers progressed, Frank's health continued to decline, and it became increasingly difficult for him to keep up with a rigorous filming schedule. It wasn't just about the physical toll of the job. The addiction had begun to affect his ability to focus, perform, and maintain his relationships with the rest of the American Pickers crew. The difficult decision to step back. As the reality of Frank's addiction grew more apparent, Mike was faced with a heartbreaking decision. He had to choose between his loyalty to his friend and the practical realities of their business. It was a choice that no one should ever have to make, but Mike knew that continuing to push forward without Frank would only hurt both of them in the long run. I knew that Frank needed help, and I knew that the show couldn't continue like it was. Mike confessed. We couldn't just keep pretending that everything was fine. Frank needed to take time for himself, and I had to respect that. The decision was made. Frank would step away from American Pickers to focus on his recovery. Fans were devastated by the news, but Mike's respect for his friend's privacy and his desire to protect Frank from further scrutiny was evident. The show, which had been synonymous with the duo's adventures, was now missing one half of its heart and soul. Mike continued on with the show, but the absence of Frank was deeply felt, both on screen and off. In the years that followed, Frank's health continued to decline, and his relationship with Mike began to fray. The addiction that had once been hidden behind a veil of secrecy was now out in the open, and Mike couldn't help but feel the weight of it. Despite his best efforts to support Frank through his recovery, the strain of addiction began to put a wedge between the two friends. It was a painful reality that Mike had never expected to face. A difficult truth. The turning point came when Frank's drug addiction led to a public altercation. It was the first time that the public became aware of the full extent of Frank's struggles. His behavior on set became increasingly erratic, and there were rumors circulating about his health and personal life. Mike was forced to confront the truth. Frank wasn't just battling addiction, he was battling for his life. Mike's candid revelation about Frank's addiction was both a moment of raw honesty and a difficult personal reckoning. He admitted that he had watched his friend spiral into a dark place, and as much as he wanted to help, there were times when he didn't know how. "It's the hardest thing I've ever had to go through," Mike said. "I've always been there for Frank, but at some point I realized that I couldn't fix him." Addiction is something that only the person suffering from it can truly overcome. Mike's emotional honesty was a testament to the complexity of their relationship, one that had always been based on mutual respect, but had been tested by the destructive power of addiction. As much as Mike wanted to fix things, he knew that Frank's journey was ultimately one that he had to face alone.